All right, so we're going to start off with little introductions of who's here, kind of helping out with the discussion. Myself, I'm Rob Pope. I am the USCCA sales manager for the state of Michigan, as well as the owner of Newaygo Firearms, an instructor there as well. And we also have on board here Tim Overzet. Tim's one of our instructors as well at the range, and Theron Howe. He's actually a carpenter builder as well as one of our instructors. So he's going to help with some discussion when it comes to physical security. And then we've got Kyle Rash, who's one of our instructors as well. So I'm going to mute everybody that's not muted right now, just so we don't get extra feedback and stuff from the other mics. And when somebody wants to step in, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Quick little tutorial if you're on a computer. Upper top right-hand corner and stuff, it'll give you an option to either have it be on the speaker view or on a gallery view so you can see everybody. So that's a little button up in the top right-hand corner. And then down at the bottom of the screen, you should see controls for turning your camera on and off and turning your mic on and off and those types of things. So we do have some of our instructors are monitoring the chat as well. So if you want to type in a question or something like that, you can do that. And we can try to help guide you from there. You should, again, at the bottom there, you should see a little chat button where you can bring up the chat window if you want to ask us something that way. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself and ask a question from that point. So this presentation is brought to you guys by the USCCA. So we'll start off a little bit with something from them.
It's in our nature to protect the ones we love. To stand up to any danger. To be strong and courageous. To always be prepared. To keep our family safe. To be the first line of defense. We are born to protect.
All right. And again, welcome everybody. This is brought to you by both Newaygo Firearms and the USCCA. Obviously, Newaygo Firearms is a official partner of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. So we're going to jump right into the topic today and what we're going to be talking about, which is, of course, home security as well as home defense. So again, like I said, if you have any questions particular as we go through the different topics, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, or jump into the chat and ask it there, and we'll try to address it. We want to make sure that you guys get the information out of this that you're looking for. We just kind of have an outline here of a guide of what we're going to talk about and what we're going to go through. So the first section under security and stuff, we want to talk about doors and securing your doors. Obviously, the most likely place somebody's going to try to break into your home is going to be through a door. Well over 50% of the time, home burglars are going to come through a door. So there's some very simple and very inexpensive things you can do to secure those doors and make sure that they're going to help keep somebody out. And obviously, you're not going to be able to totally 100% keep somebody out. If somebody is absolutely destined on trying to get into your home and they want to come in through a door, they're going to get in one way or another. What we're really looking at doing is hopefully deter them. Once they start trying and they realize it's too tough, they're going to move on and choose somebody else. Or at least give you some viable warning that somebody's trying to get into the house, so it gives you time in order to prepare and to deal with that threat if it were to get in. Because the last thing you want to be doing is sitting on your sofa and all of a sudden you hear a loud crash, your door pops open, and then next thing you know, somebody's standing in your entryway. If they have to hit on that door and stuff a number of times in order to get in, that's going to give you time to react. I'm actually going to have Theron jump in on this because as a builder and contractor and stuff, he understands how a door is secured and how it can be kept closed and stuff with the locks. Obviously, deadbolt locks are great, but they only work as well as the stuff that they actually lock into. So, Theron, why don't you jump in and kind of talk about a little bit with doors and how you can reinforce them and secure them better?
Well, one of the quickest ways to do it is they have a little hardware kit that you can get at Home Depot or Menards or any of the box stores like that. A lot of your hardware stores will carry them too. Get a reinforced strike plate for your deadbolt to latch into. And in order to do it, you'll actually have to take the strike plate that's there off. Some newer handles and newer installed doors will already have a reinforced strike plate behind the beauty ring, the beauty strike plate that's there. And what you do is you chisel out just a little bit more of that, the jam, put that heavy-duty strike plate in with the longer screws that it comes with. They're longer, heavier-duty screws that will secure into the stud instead of just the door jamb. The door jamb itself is only a 1x4 of usually pine, and a good swift kick, and that will come right open. And if you install these heavy-duty strike plates, you'll get just an immense amount more of resistance. I think they say that you're supposed to get 10 times more resistance by securing in that way. The other thing you want to do is go to the hinge side, and you'll take a couple of those screws out and get the longer screws that countersink into them and screw those into the studs as well. And just honestly, even one screw per hinge will do what you need it to do. It'll increase it by a lot. But getting that strike plate off, the strike plate is your weak side. The latch side is your weak point. So by taking that beauty ring off, putting the heavy duty strike plate behind it with the heavy duty screws, it'll do immense amounts for securing that door.
Yeah, just in doing these minor things, which is very inexpensive, can make your door 10 times harder to breach. So that's 10 times harder. Somebody's got to try to force their way into that door in order to get in. And I mean, coming as a firefighter of 8 years, I've breached a lot of doors, and I could tell you the minute we hit a door, whether or not somebody had done these things or not, because the first hit on the door, it wasn't open. That means that they have reinforced it and secured it. Otherwise, we could hit the door one time and it'd be blast open with no problem. So just something like that, a few dollars and 20 minutes of your time, and you can have your doors 10 times harder to breach. And that buys you a lot of time, a significant amount of time if somebody really has to beat on the door in order to try to get in.
Those kits will usually run you less than $10. And at least if they still do get in, it gives you a notice so you're not sitting there unaware. If somebody hits your door a couple of times, you're going to hear it, and it'll give you a chance to react.
So the next thing we want to talk about is windows. So obviously, if somebody's not going to come in through a door, they're going to come in through a window. There are a number of security devices you can get in order to help secure your windows as well. Obviously, this could get a little bit more expensive. Typically, most people have more windows in their home than they do doors. And obviously they're glass, so somebody can just break the glass and then come in that way. But obviously, we'd rather them break the glass and come in that way than we would want them to be able to just jimmy the window open, because again, that whole pre-warning, that notice that somebody's coming in, obviously the sound of breaking glass hopefully would alert you that somebody is doing something, versus somebody being able to just jimmy the window open and sneak in the middle of the night type thing. So, Theron, do you have recommendations on securing windows?
The biggest thing is to make sure your latches work and they lock. A lot of your old windows, if it's an old wood frame window, you could actually cut a smaller piece of wood that would fit in so the door won't raise, unless you pull that piece of wood out. But other than that, just making sure the latches work properly and they are latched. That's the biggest thing. If you want to get into windows that are designed to keep out intruders, you're going to start talking about getting into real money as far as getting tempered glass and break resistant glass. It's
If
not
you're
necessarily cost effective for most people, but just making sure your latches work and latching them. That's the biggest thing.
and don't forget about second story windows either, because just because it's on the second floor doesn't mean somebody couldn't maybe get into it. I know a lot of my windows also have the little safety latches that where you can open the window just so much, and then there's a little latch that stops the window from going up any further than that. I leave those popped out even when the windows are closed. So that's just one more layer of security that's going to slow somebody down if they were able to jimmy the lock open or something like that and get the window up. But second floor, it's all too often I've done security assessments on people's homes, and they don't lock the second floor windows because, well, it's on the second floor, you can't really get to it. But yet the ladder is leaning against the shed out in the backyard. So you've got the tools there for somebody to get to the second floor window, but then you're not locking it because it's the second floor. So don't take that for granted either, that you're leaving tools out that help assist somebody to break into your home. So keep those things secured. You can also get a security film that you can put on your window that kind of it makes it so that when the glass breaks, it doesn't all just break out and fall out. It holds it all together. So there's a film that you can get to apply to your windows. That can get a little costly as well. But what I do recommend to people is that if you are going to replace windows in your house, at least consider and price out and look at high security windows. Because if you're already paying for new windows as it is, it might not be that much more expensive, or it might be worth the extra expense to be able to get the security windows, or at least the ones on the first floor for sure.
One thing to keep in mind is when you're in the summertime putting those air conditioners in, you're actually going to want to screw those air conditioners in. I know you might put a couple of holes in the frame of your window, but somebody can easily push one of those air conditioners out and gain entry that way.
That's a good point. So also for home security and stuff, considering lighting. Having lighting around your house, making sure that the entire perimeter of the house is well lit. Motion lights are great as well because that helps draw attention when they kick on. Personally, I prefer the motion lights that have multiple levels so that from dawn to dusk, it's a really dim light that's kind of lighting up the area. But then when it picks up motion, it goes on bright and full bright. And because that's going to help draw attention if you're sitting on the sofa or upstairs and all of a sudden you catch that light kick on out your bedroom window, that's going to get your attention and get you, and also going to potentially draw neighbors' attention as well. When they see the light kick on, they're going to want to look around and see what's going on. So that's the thing that people that are going to burglarize or try to break into the home, that's what they don't want. They don't want to draw people's attention. So when they go to walk up into a house and a motion light kicks on, they walk away. It's actually pretty interesting with all of the Ring doorbells and security systems and cameras out there. My mother-in-law has in Bay City, she has a Ring doorbell camera system and alarm system on her home. And part of that, she's on the Ring neighborhood. So then anytime people see something that is suspicious or potential criminal activity, they'll actually post the videos onto that neighborhood, and it alerts everybody in the area, and you can go and watch that chunk of video footage that they posted. And in the last 2 weeks, I've seen 10 videos get posted on there, and every single one of them, the person is walking up to like the car, checking the door handle, or walking up to the house, and as soon as the floodlight kicks on, the motion light, they turn and walk away. It's every single time and stuff. The light kicks on, the person turns and walks away. Why? Because they're gonna just move on to the next target. It's all about what's the easy target for them. And if you're not the easy target, they're gonna pass you up and look for somebody else. So that lighting is kind of critical on that. And I really like motion lights that kick on when somebody comes up. But I still want to have light around my house, even with the motion light off. So don't forget about your garage. Just because your home is secure, whether it's attached or detached, garages are typically pretty easy to try to break into. So I know the windows on most garages and stuff are like the single pane, real cheesy, cheap windows and things like that, as well as overhead doors, making sure that those are good and secured. Sometimes an overhead door, the latch for the motor mechanism is not that great. So you can walk up to the door and just kind of rattle it and kind of pick up on it pretty tough, and it'll pop the latch and you'll be able to open the garage door. So check those things out. Try out your garage door. See if you can, grab a hold of it and kind of pick up on it and shake it a bit and make sure that the latch doesn't pop loose. And if it does, you may want to look into the new latch system for the opener on it. And you check your windows on your garage as well. Somebody breaking into your garage, obviously they've got easy access to the stuff that's in there, but then they've also got an area that they can be that's undetected and stuff for them to try to break into your home from there if it is an attached garage as well. So don't take that for granted. And back to that whole thing is if you've got a detached garage and you don't keep it locked and you've got all the tools and everything in there, you're just providing somebody with the tools to try to break into your house there on scene. So that's not good either. And the same with the sheds and outbuildings as well. Make sure that those are good and secure. You don't have, all of your tools, a ladder and all that stuff sitting in the shed that's unlocked, and then somebody uses that to get to your second story window. So we've kind of already talked about that a little bit. And then when we look at awareness, when it comes to security, we want to have an early alert system that is going to let us know that somebody is nearby. Somebody's in our yard, somebody's, approaching the door, things like that. So motion lights are really good for that. I'm a really big believer, and by no means is this a paid advertisement, in the Ring doorbell and Ring camera systems. They're relatively inexpensive. Heck, you can get even the alarm system and everything. You can get alarm system and camera monitoring and stuff. You can pay for the monitoring service is $100 a year. And you can have professional monitoring on an alarm system on your home. And then you can also have it so it records any of the cameras that you get from them. I hooked up my mother-in-law's place. It was probably $600 I think we spent on 3 cameras, and it was a floodlight camera, a doorbell camera, and a second camera, and then on a full alarm system on the home. And $100 a year. It's monitored professionally. So if somebody tries to break in or something, she's obviously got that alert. She's got an alert if somebody walks past a certain camera and whatnot. So there's some good options out there that are relatively inexpensive. That's going to help when somebody is approaching your home and stuff. That, like I said, motion lights are some of the cheapest and best and easiest to do too. You also want to be aware when answering the door or somebody's approaching the house. So somebody pulls into your driveway, they ring the doorbell. I highly recommend look at what's going on in the area. Look at what kind of vehicle did they drive up in? Is there other people still in the vehicle? What does the person look like? Is it a delivery person, or is it somebody just kind of knocking on the door? Actually, before you actually answer the door, I hate to say this, but profile the people that are coming up there, what type of vehicle they drive, that type of stuff. I mean, I know out in this area where we're at, we've had the vacuum salesperson or the person just trying to sell something, but yet it really looks suspicious. There's 2 or 3 people in an old beat up minivan, and somebody comes up to the door and stuff, and they're not dressed like necessarily a salesperson. And yeah, that's their pitch, but they very well could be profiling the house, or they could be looking to see who's home in order to maybe try to, but break in right then and there. The people are in the van ready to jump out or something. If you're at all in doubt, don't answer the door, and that's where, back to that, even if the Ring doorbell, if that's all you had, somebody who hits the doorbell, you can answer that from your phone. You don't have to go to the door. You can actually answer from the phone and just say, hey, I can't come to the door right now, or whatever. Heck, I answered my doorbell from Florida 2 months ago. So, it worked pretty well. But just being aware before you answer the door. Don't just open the door for just anybody that happens to ring the doorbell or knock on the door, because they may have ill intent. So, look at that and judge those people before you do it.
I just want to add, as far as the early alert system, dogs make a great early alert system as well. It doesn't have to be a big dog. I've got a little 18-pound Jack Russell mix that she'll let you know whenever somebody's there that's out of place. I
Research
encourage her. I
18
tell her
pounds.
she's a good dog when she does it. Just, let them dogs do what they're supposed to and help you out, even if they're not a big dog.
Yeah, that's a good key point too. If you do have a dog, training the dog to understand what's what. I mean, when somebody first approaches or knocks on the door or rings the doorbell or somebody pulls in the driveway and the dog's all barking like you wouldn't believe and stuff, don't necessarily quiet them down until the point at which you answer the door. Once you answer the door, then you can quiet them down type thing. That lets them know that, hey, that's what they're supposed to do. If the second somebody pulls in, they start barking and you start yelling at them instantly, they're going to start to think that, okay, I'm not supposed to alert that somebody's in the yard. And most of the time they're probably still going to do it anyways. But, you want to reinforce the behaviors that you're looking for. And as long as it's an unknown person and stuff, let them bark a little bit. Let them do their job and let them know that that's their job to alert you that somebody's there. Good point. All right. So when it comes to home defense, well, you need to have a plan. It is absolutely critical to have a plan ahead of time, because at the time somebody is either A, trying to break into your home, or B, already in your home, is not the time at which you want to try to figure out what you're going to do. So first things first, you want to involve the whole family, even kids. If they're old enough to get up and move around on their own, they need to be part of the plan, and they need to understand what to do in case there's something happening in the house. If they're unsure of something, okay, this is where you need to go and hide, type thing. Have a hiding place or something for them. You want to have them know that if things are going wrong, then, we need you to do X, Y, Z, or whatever it is part of that plan. So you want to have a safe location planned out. And actually, you want to have two safe locations. So you want to have one safe location that is inside the home. So whether that be the master bedroom or, something like that, it doesn't have to be, a safe room as far as being 100% secured. I do recommend in the safe location, you want to have a couple of things. You want to have a way to barricade that door. So a couple of good ideas for barricading the door, like Theron mentioned on the exterior door, having, like the 3-inch screws that actually go into the frame around the door. Having a solid core door and not just a hollow core door that's easy to like bust in half, basically. So a solid core door, having the screws and the hinges going into the actual frame, not just into the trim work around it. Same thing with the latch plate. You might not really need the hardened steel latch plate, but at least the metal latch plate that's there, put the longer screws in it. And then have an exterior grade doorknob lock on it. So just an exterior home regular door lock works pretty well to be able to lock that door to be able to stop somebody from getting in. And then personally, I recommend a 3-point contact system on both sides of the door. So on the hinge side of the door, you've got the 3 hinges that are there, typically 3, especially on solid core doors. I believe they're almost always 3. Hollow core doors will typically, at least what I've seen, has been 2 hinge systems instead of 3. You got the 3 the screws in those 3 hinges that are into the framework. And then on the other side of the door, you've got the door knob that you can lock. And then I recommend a slide over latch bolt up towards the top of the door. And then either the same thing down at the bottom, or what I use is one of the little kick foots that holds the doors open. So if you got a door that's got an auto closer on it, you got the little foot you can flip down that holds the door open. If you put that on the inside of the door, almost every bedroom door opens inward. If you put that on the inside of the door down at the bottom, when you flip that down and then just kind of kick your foot and wedge it into the floor, now that door is being held closed by the floor. And then a throw-over latch up at the top, and then the doorknob lock in the middle. So now you've got 3 points of contact on both the doorknob side and the hinge side that's going to stop somebody from getting through that door. So, I mean, something like that, you're talking total setup. If you've already got a solid core door and stuff, you're talking maybe $30 or $40 into all of that stuff. I mean, it's really an inexpensive thing to do. If you got to get a solid core door to replace a hollow core door, you're probably talking another $100 on that to get a solid core door. If you don't have a solid core door, then have something close by that you can shove in front of the door. So maybe a dresser or something of that nature that's going to help keep that door closed. Um, so, and
A
then
door stop really works really well too. Just one of the little rubber door stops that you can get off of Amazon, and those are also great for traveling. So if you go into a hotel or something, you can take that little rubber door stop with you and wedge it into that door before you go to sleep, and that'll buy you a little extra time along with the latches and stuff that they already have on the door.
yeah, absolutely. They're just a little rubber foot wedge that you kick into the door to hold it open. You can do that to hold it closed just as well. And it's a good point on traveling as well. So that's inside your home, having that safe location designated, that everybody in the house knows where to go if something's going wrong. That way you've got everybody in one location and you can defend that location. Outside the home and stuff, if for some reason you have to exit the home, this is good for whether it's a fire or an intruder or something of that nature. If you need to exit the home, where do you go? Where does the family meet? Where do they congregate? You want to be able to make sure that you can get back together once you get out of the house and stuff. If somebody's in a panic and stuff runs out of the house and you don't have a plan of where you're going to meet and go, everybody's going to go in different directions and you're going to be trying to figure out, did they get out? Did they not? Where is everybody? So have that plan to meet. I mean, that's great for a fire plan as well as it is for an intruder type plan if you have to exit. Typically, I don't recommend exiting the home on an intruder situation just because you're going out into the unknown. In the home, you can fortify and defend your position a lot easier than you can outside, but sometimes you don't have that option. You need to get out. So have that plan of where you're going to meet if you get out. So what kind of gear for home defense? Boy, this could be a really long list. Obviously, Newaygo Firearms, I mean, we're big into having some type of a firearm for home defense. There's a plethora of different options. When it comes to home defense, the questions here are, and this is where, Tim and Kyle and Theron can jump in and stuff too. We could have a debate all night long about what is the best home defense firearm, when it comes to, if you're looking at a firearm for home defense, because your basics are pistol, shotgun, or rifle. And personally, I think there's goods and bads to all of them. And it's always a balancing act to be able to play it out of what's going to be best. Personally, I believe if you're fortifying, defending, so if I've made it into my safe room, I've locked and or barricaded my door, and I am secured in that location with my family, and we are going to stay put and give warnings. And if somebody crosses a threshold or say they bust through my door, then I'm going to defend myself from that position. 100%, I would say a shotgun every day of the week because it's going to deliver a very significant load. It's been proven time and time again that more holes are better than big holes as long as you cross a certain threshold. So not birdshot, we're talking double-aught buck. Double-aught buck out of a 12 gauge, you're hitting somebody with 8 to 9 pellets the size of a 9mm bullet all at one time. Extremely effective, and you're not going to end up with the over penetration. It's not going to end up going, into the neighbor's house, by the time it's done, like a rifle could. A rifle's an effective long range weapon, but really in close quarters and stuff, it's not necessarily the best. But now if I'm dealing with a situation where I have to move through my house in order to, protect my family, say my kids are on the other end of the house and somebody breaks in, I'm on one end, they're on the other, the person that broke in's in between, I need to get from me to my family to protect them. I personally want a handgun, to be able to move through a house effectively and be able to be prepared to defend myself and defend my family. It's really unwieldy to try to move through a close quarter house with a long gun, and it's hard to be able to deploy that to use it. Tim, Kyle, Theron, you guys got any input on that?
I'd like to jump in and say shotguns, don't think 12 gauge is the only thing you have to use. If you're somebody that's recoil sensitive, or you got a bad shoulder, or you want to leave something for your wife, buckshot and a 20 gauge or a 410 are still very effective. So don't shy away from the smaller ones. Don't think it's 12 gauge or nothing.
Yeah, buckshot out of a 20 gauge and stuff, you're losing a couple of pellets, and that's about it. And at a at a close range, which within a house, basically anywhere within a house from point A to point B and stuff, that a 20 gauge is going to be just as effective. Don't think you have to go big or go home type thing with when it comes to firearms.
And don't be, hey Rob, don't be under the misinterpretation that, because it's a shotgun, I don't have to aim, because like we discussed multiple times in our classes, that up close, the pattern coming out of the end of the shotgun is very small, so don't be under that misinterpretation that you don't have to aim.
Absolutely. Long guns are easier to aim than handguns, just because you've got that whole entire length of the barrel and stuff to be able to point it at the threat and get an accurate aim on it, whereas the pistol takes a little bit more focus and concentration to be able to get that same amount of accuracy out of it. In a home, like I said, if I was moving, I would want the handgun. But if I'm going to be stationary and defending a position, I'd like the shotgun over any day of the week. So another thing to think about gear, though, as well, obviously, if you have to defend yourself in your home, odds are somebody's going to get hurt. Hopefully it's just the bad guy, but, statistically and stuff, it very well could be an innocent party, whether it's yourself or a loved one or a family. I highly, highly recommend having a first aid trauma kit on hand in your house, especially in your safe location. If you're going to have gear staged there, a firearm, stuff like that, to have medical supplies available and have the knowledge and education on how to use them. Because that could be there to save your life. It could be there to save a loved one's life. Personally, I don't stock first aid supplies for the bad guy, but depending on circumstances and stuff, personally, I might use them on the bad guy. I don't know. I couldn't tell you until the situation happened, but obviously my number one concern is myself and my loved ones. So I want to make sure if I'm going to have the mindset and the thought process that I may have to use deadly force in order to defend myself and my home and my family, I need to have the tools on hand to be able to deal with the ramifications of that situation. So having a med supply with a minimum of a tourniquet, some chest seals, and like an Israeli or some type of a compression bandage. Those three things are the absolute critical ones. There's obviously some other things that I would recommend and stuff, having some compressed gauze, things like that. And this isn't like your first aid boo-boo kit. So there's a boo-boo kit, and then there's what I call an individual first aid kit. Actually, there's ones I personally recommend are from North American Rescue. Again, no sponsorship or anything here. This has got tourniquet, a compression bandage, or what's also called an Israeli bandage, compressed gauze, and some chest seals. Everything all in a little kit and a little instruction packet on how to use them. So those are from North American Rescue. Those can be got for about $60 to $80, depending on the contents and what all you have put in it when you order it. Newaygo Firearms can actually order these for you, or you can order them right off of North American Rescue's website as well. So we are a dealer for them, so we can get them.
Real quick, make sure you're identifying whoever you're using commands and calling out, so that you don't end up having to use your med kit because you just shot somebody that stopped by to crash on your couch.
Yep, that Uncle Jimmy and stuff, who got drunk and got kicked out of his house and knew where your hidden key was and didn't want to wake you in the middle of the night and was just going to crash on your couch or something. You don't want to end up using deadly force on somebody because you knew them and they were just trying to not disturb you. Or it could be college age kid coming home and wanting to surprise you or something like that. Or it could be your daughter's boyfriend. Nope, that's not a good one. Trying to sneak in or out of the house. But yeah, definitely identify your target before taking any type of force against them. Give warnings. Basically put a line in the sand. That's always the best way to think about it, is when especially if you're going to fortify and defend. So you go into your safe room, your safe location, whatever, you get yourself fortified and you're ready to defend. Kind of draw a line in the sand of saying, okay, this is the point at which there's, no going back type thing, where I'm going to have to defend myself if they cross this line. And make sure you're informing them that line exists, that, get out. I've called the cops. If you come through that door, I'm going to defend myself, type thing. And if they continue to do so, then, be prepared to respond accordingly. So
one more thing on gear, flashlights. If you're going to have a gun in the house, most of the time, most of these things happen after dark. So have a flashlight staged with your weapon. Weapon mounted lights are nice, but I recommend having one that is not weapon mounted, so that if you're going through your house trying to get to your family, you're not pointing your gun at everything you're trying to see.
Absolutely. I am 100% on board with weapon mounted lights for home defense. I don't carry a weapon mounted light on my carry gun because, well, I've already carried enough crap and weight and everything else on me. It just bulks it up and adds more to it. So I carry a separate flashlight just in my pocket for carrying out in public. But for home defense, all of my home defense firearms have a weapon mounted light and a flashlight sitting right there with it. Because if you do have to identify, things in your home or move through your home and be able to see what you're doing, you don't want to have to be pointing the muzzle of the gun at everything that you're looking at. But having both of them handy and ready is awesome, because you can have the flashlight, and if you identify a threat, you can drop the flashlight and then bring the gun up and have the light on the gun in order to be able to then positively identify and make the shot. A couple of things that actually does. One is you're not pointing your firearm at, innocent people and your family and that type of stuff as you're working your way through, looking at what's going on. And two is you dropping that flashlight tends to draw the person's eye towards that light, and that gives you that extra, second and a half or so to be able to get your firearm up and be able to respond, and kind of draws their attention away from it just for a moment. So it can buy you just a split second of time, not a ton, but it is a benefit. So the next thing we've got on here is staging versus storing of home defense tools. So one of the things we talk about a lot when it comes to safety and security of a firearm, making sure your firearm is safe so that unauthorized people can't gain access to it. So that means something different for everybody. A lot of people have small children in the home, and if you've got small children in the home, obviously you don't want to have them being able to access the firearm, but you do want to have it to be ready so that if you do need to use it for a defensive purpose, that you can get to it quickly and deploy it. So to me, that's staging, is having the gun locked up, but it's prepped and ready and I can get to it very quickly. To me, my threshold is I need to be able to deploy that gun in less than 4 seconds. So that's my threshold for a staged gun. However, I'm going to lock it up. I want to make sure it's locked up in a fashion that I can get that gun out and deploy it within 4 seconds from the time I get to whatever it is. So there's tons of quick access safes that are just couple of the ones I have are you just lay your hand on top and it's got little grooves for each of the fingers. There's a button under each finger. You punch in whatever the code is you program. The door is spring loaded. It pops open. There's my firearm ready to go. Or I've got ones that are RFID tags. So I got a shot lock that actually locks my shotgun to the wall, where the lock just goes over the mechanism of the firearm, the chamber area and such, so that the gun is not functional while it's locked up there. But the RFID tag is like there's little stickers, and you put that on something that's somewhere close by that you can grab and just wave it past the lock and the lock pops open. Or like my wife and stuff, when I'm not home, she's got a bracelet that has the RFID tag in it. So if I'm not home, she's wearing that bracelet. When I'm home, she usually doesn't wear it. So because most of the time I've typically got a gun on my person, so I can spare an extra second or two to get the shotgun out if I have to, type thing. But so there's lots of options there for staging. And then storing a firearm would be like my hunting rifles and guns that I not have any intent of using for my personal defense or my home defense and stuff. Then those are separate from the ammunition. They're locked up. They're in a safe that takes me, a minute or so to be able to get into. That type of thing and stuff is for storage of firearms, making sure they're properly locked up. So my staged firearms are, have ammunition with them, full magazines, ready to go. So when we're staging a firearm with the ammunition, there's a couple of things that you want to take into consideration. That's when you're accessing that firearm, you are going to be under a great amount of stress. Basically, you are in fear of your life. So you want to make sure that that gun is stored in a way that you're not going to end up inadvertently grabbing it and finger on the trigger and potentially discharging a round unintentionally from the firearm. So there's two different ways that I recommend to do that. One is to store the firearm or stage the firearm in a holster that completely covers the trigger guard. So if it's a pistol or something like that, my pistol is in that quick access lockbox in a holster, loaded, chambered, ready to go. Because then when I reach in and grab that gun and stuff, it's already in a holster. The trigger guard's protected. I can't put my finger where it doesn't belong or anything of that nature. I like that as well because then I can pull the gun out and I can put it on my person and then I can go do what I need to do. That way I've already got the holster there. It's already ready to go. I've got a way to carry the gun and be able to move and do what I've got to do and stuff with the gun on me. If I'm not going to have the firearm in a holster, the way I personally recommend to do it is to have the chamber locked open and a full mag in the gun. That way when the gun comes out of the safe, I can visually and obviously see that the chamber is open, so I know it's not loaded. All I got to do is then rack the slide, loads around, and I'm ready to go. But that way, under that stress, when I'm reaching into the safe and quickly grabbing the gun and stuff, I don't inadvertently have any safety issues as far as the discharge of that firearm because my finger went where it shouldn't have went. Long guns and stuff, I do recommend keeping those non-chambered, full mag, so that when you bring them out, all you got to do is rack the chamber and get a round in the gun and stuff. Whether it's a rifle or a shotgun or something like that, pump action, pull it out, pump the gun, and it's ready to rock. So those are some things to think about when staging or storing the firearm and stuff, is making sure that we don't have an inadvertent discharge. So mental exercises. You really want to put yourself through a number, or as many, you could do this daily or whatever, is play the what if game. What if I'm sitting on my sofa watching a podcast about home security and home defense, and somebody all of a sudden decided to kick in my front door? All right, so somebody's kicking in my front door right now. What would I do? How do I get to my safe location? How do I make sure, where are my kids at right now? Where's my spouse at right now? Dive behind a pillow and stuff if you need to and whatnot, because that'll protect you. I don't know how many people are looking at the other cameras, but I'm picking on people. So, think about that. Play your mind through that scenario. How do I get to my defensive tools? How do I get to my safe location? How do I get to my family? How do I get my family to that safe location? What's going on right now in the situation you're in, where you're at, if somebody did this? What if they kicked in your basement window? What if they, kicked in the back door? Play those games and play those through in your head, and heck, even walk through the scenarios. Okay, I need to get to my firearm. Where is it? How am I going to call 911? Do I have a home phone line? Where's my cell phone at? Thinking of cell phones, I don't know how many people here have a home phone line, but they're not exactly all that popular anymore. Most people just go off of their cell phone. Well, where do you leave your cell phone at all the time? Is it laying around? Is it close by? Is it in your pocket? Do you ever get up and walk away from it for 30 seconds? What if somebody broke in at that point in time? I highly recommend having a few old cell phones plugged in and staged around the house. No paid service, nothing like that. You upgraded your phone. You've got an old flip phone. As long as it's less than 15 years old, it can pick up and dial 911 and make a connection even without paid service, as long as it would normally receive service if it had paid service where you're at. Obviously, some people live out in the boon lands and stuff, and they don't have any cell phone signal. Like I have zero cell phone signal down in my basement here where we're broadcasting from. So how would I contact 911 if I was right here right now? So thinking about those types of things and playing yourself through those mental exercises, play them out and practice them. Walk through that scenario and stuff. How would I get to that safe location? I'm down in my basement right now. My wife's at work and my daughter is upstairs in her bedroom doing who knows what, probably watching some YouTube video. If somebody kicked in my front door, how would I deal with that situation right here, right now? Fortunately, I'm well equipped and stuff, so we should be all right. But Things to think about, though. How would I do that? How would I go about dealing with that situation if it were to happen right now? The more of those scenarios you can play out in your head and think about, the more prepared you're going to be if that ever does happen. Because again, your body cannot go somewhere your mind has not already been. So if you play it out and your mind's already been there well in advance and you've thought about it, you're going to be that much faster to react and that much faster to be able to get into action, to be able to do what you need to do in order to respond. If you don't play those scenarios out and you don't have those mental exercises and somebody kicks in your door, now you have to wait for your mind to process that information, think about it, plan out what you're going to do, and then do it. So you're going to be that much slower to react and be able to respond. So some of the things we like to talk about when it comes to home defense or even defense in general is you want to avoid, escape, and then defend. So you got to think about those things. Is how do I avoid this situation in the first place? The home security side of things is how we avoid it. We try to avoid it well in advance. We try to not be the target. We want people to choose somebody else over us because we want to be a hard target for them to try to attack us or do something with us. And if somebody does try to do something, we try to escape. Escape to that safe location, that safe room, barricade ourselves, and then prepare to defend from that location. I personally do not recommend trying to sweep your home. There's tons of videos out there where you can watch all these awesome tactical videos about how to go through and clear your home and do a sweep of your home. And while that's kind of fun and dandy, but you have got a much bigger advantage if you can fortify and defend. Huge advantage if you can fortify and defend. If you are the one moving through your house trying to seek out the bad guy, they're going to see you before you see them in 99% of the time. So you don't want to be in that position if you can avoid it. Now, again, if you've got kids on the other side of the house and somebody breaks in and you need to be able to get to those kids to defend them, well, by all means, you have to do what you got to do in order to protect your family. So at this point, any questions from what we've covered thus far? Anybody got anything that they want to jump in on and ask about? If you do, unmute or just type in something into the chat and we'll be happy to cover it. Everybody's being really quiet. So then the last thing to consider when it comes to defending oneself, whether it's in the home or out in public, is the aftermath. So somebody breaks into your home and you have to use deadly force to defend yourself. Then what? What happens next? So what do you say to 911? Tim, if you just got done defending your home and you had to use deadly force to do so, you pick up the phone. Obviously, your first phone call is going to be to 911. What do you say?
I'm going to explain that I just used, I had an intruder in my home. I had to use my weapon. Whether or not the guy's dead or not, I'm going to explain that. And I'm just going to give them my name, my location, and then I'm going to tell them I'll talk to them more after I have my attorney. So I'm not going to elaborate on what happened. I'm not going to elaborate on anything that happened in the situation. I'm just going to tell them if the guy's hurt and they need an ambulance, send an ambulance, give them your address, tell them what's going on.
Yep. Kyle, what you got to say?
I was raising my hand for Theron. Theron asked me to raise my hand in the chat.
Messing with me. All right, guys. So the big thing when it comes to 911, the very first thing you want to get out when you call 911 is your location. Where are you? Whether it's if you're at home, then it's your address. That's the very first thing you want to get out on in that call, because that is the most important piece of information that 911 needs, is they need to know where you're at. Because if that phone call gets cut off at that point in time, then at least they know where to send people. The GPS on phones, yeah, If you're out in the country and stuff, for the most part, usually works pretty well. But if you're in a big city or something like that, man, they could be looking a 5-city block radius to try to figure out where that call came from. In fact, actually out here in the country, I was when I was on the fire department and stuff, I was listening to the radio, and law enforcement, they had a call come in and nobody was even talking or anything like that, and they were trying to GPS locate it. And they had a half-mile radius over in Bridgeton of where the call was originated from, and they were trying to figure out where the call was coming from and stuff, where it was just like basically kind of like a 911 hang-up, or it was actually an open line. And they were trying to track it down, literally going door to door. So I don't know about you, but if I'm in a situation where I either just had to defend myself or think I'm going to have to defend myself because somebody's broken into my house and I'm calling 911 before I even acted, the first thing I want them to know is, where am I? You know, what's my address or what's my location so they can find me. That's the most important information. After that and stuff, it's just, you know, who am I and what happened or what is happening, you know, here's my name. I was forced to defend myself. Somebody broke into my home, you know, period. I'm not going to talk about what exactly I did. I'm not going to talk about what they did. I'm going to give the best description of the bad guy, especially if they left. I'm going to give the description I can and stuff, and that, you know, they broke into my home or I was forced to defend myself, and that's it. Leave that conversation there. Don't get into details. Your mind plays tricks on you when you're in that type of a stressful situation, and it's not that you're going to intentionally lie to or give false statements, but a lot of times people will give emotional statements. And those emotional statements can really play havoc on you when it comes to the defense later on. And obviously everything on 911 is being recorded. So if you say, you know, man, I didn't mean to shoot the guy, you know, yeah, you know, morally you didn't want to, or didn't want to shoot somebody, or didn't mean to shoot them, but they forced you to. But if you say on a recorded phone line that I didn't mean to shoot the guy, you know, if some other things, if they're in question of what your actions were, then, well, they very well could use that against you. So we don't want to get into that giving emotional statements. We want to just give facts of, you know, I was forced to defend myself, and that's it. The rest of it can come later. Theron?
We also want to keep in mind that when we're training, if we were to have an accident, we want to let when we call 911, we want to let them know that there was a training incident so that they show up with an ambulance knowing there's a problem. Because if you just call and say somebody got shot, they're going to send in the police department hot and heavy. And that's one of the things we like to tell people at our range. So if you're training at home on your own and there is a negligent discharge and somebody gets hurt, make sure you let them know there was a training incident so that they'll get the medical team in there sooner instead of having them wait on police department to go in first.
Absolutely. And on top of that, you want it, no matter what the situation is, whether it's training incident or it's an actual defensive situation, the one other key part of information you want to let them know on 911 is how many people are hurt. You know, because if you just say I was forced to defend myself and that was it, and you left it at that, and, you know, somebody's been shot, you know, they're going to send one ambulance. But say they send one ambulance, but your kid has a laceration on their leg at the same time. You know, when the ambulance gets there, who's the first one to go in the ambulance? The most critical. So you don't want your kid sitting there waiting for another ambulance to come because they had to call a second one after the first one got there when they realized that there was more people hurt than what they knew in the first place. So if you need multiple ambulances, by all means, get that information out about how many people are injured so they can send multiple ambulances if they're needed. Because they're going to take the most critical person first, and hopefully that's the bad guy. So when law enforcement arrives, Tim, why don't you jump in here and stuff and talk about what to do and when law enforcement arrives?
What I'm going to do is when I called them, I'm going to tell them if I had to use my weapon, I'm going to say I had to use my weapon, and then I will let 911 know where I put my weapon, whether I place it on my vehicle or I'm going to place it, if I'm in my home, I'll place it on my cupboard, or I'm going to place it back in my holster. I'm going to let them know. And when they do arrive, it's not the time to be, you know, hey, I'm the good guy, you know, because the police officers don't know you from Jack. and they just got called in on a shooting. So I'm going to be prepared, probably get knocked down to the ground until they can, I'll be handcuffed, and everybody in the whole scene's going to be handcuffed until they can work out the situation.
Yeah, law enforcement, police officers, their number one priority when they arrive on scene is their own safety. So as far as they're concerned, everybody is a threat until they have proven otherwise. So be prepared to comply absolutely and immediately with everything that they tell you to do, and just do it. So hands up, on the ground, whatever whatever they tell you to do, just do it. Don't argue with them. Don't say, "Oh, I'm the good guy," or "This is my house," or anything like that. Just go along with it, because their number one concern is to make sure that they're safe. And once they've secured the scene and they've identified everybody and made sure everything's secured and they know where all the weapons are and all that type of stuff, then they're going to go through and figure out who's who belongs, who doesn't, what really happened. So comply with it right out the gate. Just do what they tell you to do, because they're looking out for their own butt. You don't want to get into an argument with them over what's going on, or what the situation is.
I would still describe myself to 911 when I'm making that phone call.
Absolutely.
Let them know who I am, so that they know who to expect when they're getting there. They're less likely to come after you. You're still going to have all of that happen, because they are going to secure the scene and make sure that they're safe before they figure everything out. But I'm wearing a black hoodie and blue jeans, and I've got glasses. I just describe yourself, let them know who you are, so they know who to expect when they get there.
Absolutely. So then the question is, all right, the police have showed up. They've done their quick first once over. They've secured the scene, and they're talking to you. Same situation as what to say to 911. They broke into my home. I was forced to defend myself. Period. Leave it at that. Do not get into discussions about your actions or what you did or anything like that. You want to point out any evidence or anything like that. There's a knife that they had, or anything like that. But do not get into discussing what your actions were or what you did or what you said or anything of that nature whatsoever. Your mind is going to be playing tricks on you. It's when you're in that kind of a stressful situation, when you were in fear for your life and stuff, your mind is going to block things out. Law enforcement officers that have been involved in shoot situations, it's like 40% of them have memory blackouts, chunks of time that are missing from that situation. 22% of them have false memories, meaning that their brain is telling them that something happened that didn't really happen. And part of that's because the brain or the mind has a hard time fathoming that kind of violence. So what it does is it tries to fill in it blacks it out, and then two, it tries to fill in the blanks with things that it believed probably happened. Maybe things that you saw on a TV show, or things that you thought of, happening a long time ago, or something like that. It'll just fill in the blanks, and you'll actually have false memories and stuff. There's a survey that Dr. Alex Artworth did of police officers involved in violent shootings, and they found out about a lot of these things that actually go through law enforcement officers, which law enforcement officers go out on a daily basis with the mindset that they may have to use deadly force to defend themselves or to defend others. I mean, that's part of their job. So I could only imagine that the numbers, these statistics that came out of these law enforcement officers would be much higher in a civilian situation, because you don't have that mindset every day that you're going to have to defend yourself with deadly force. So your brain is nowhere near as prepared as most law enforcement officers are to deal with that type of a situation. So we definitely would see that happening a lot more. So odds are pretty good that, police officers aren't just going to pat you on the shoulder. If there's somebody that is significantly injured and or deceased that was involved in a situation, odds are somebody's likely to probably get arrested or at least be interrogated. There's going to be an investigation. If deadly force was used, there is going to be an investigation, period. They're going to look into your past and your background. They're going to look into the other person's past and their background. They're going to be doing that investigation and digging into everything, and you're going to need representation. Tim, you got something you want to jump in on?
Yeah, no. One thing, like when the police officers arrive, one of your best comments is going to be, "I will cooperate 100%, but first I need to speak to my attorney." And before you talk to them anymore, but tell them, "Hey, I'm going to cooperate 100%, but I want my attorney present," and then invoke your right to remain silent and be silent.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to tell them, or you don't want to just be silent, strictly just silent, because that doesn't help you any. Law enforcement officers can continue to interrogate you as long as they want and stuff until the point that you actually invoke your right to remain silent. Once you've invoked your right to remain silent, then they have to stop questioning you. They cannot question you any further and stuff, but you do want to let them know that you're going to and are willing to cooperate 100%, but that you do want representation. So, and you're going to need representation during that time. It's a big deal. So, and that's part of what the USCCA does. We serve those who want to responsibly protect. So we're big into protecting those that are ready to protect what they love. You know, so that's we're the backbone behind that. What happens after? So real quick, we're gonna play another quick video from them.
We believe in the right to bear strength in a world where there are those who prey on weakness. And we believe in the right to bear the responsibility for protecting our loved ones in a world that's training people to say, "Do it for me." We believe in the right to bear the courage to be our family's first line of defense and stand up to any danger. We believe in the right to bear the confidence to be optimistic about the future. And we believe in defending what's best about this country by always being prepared. We are born to protect.
So one of the things I like to talk about, and this really, the USCCA membership thing really comes from my heart, because I've had a student of mine that took my CPL class that was forced to defend himself, and it cost him nearly $10,000 and well over a month for the prosecutor to come to the point where no charges would be filed. So I got that phone call the day the incident happened, and that afternoon with from this person that took my class asking me, now what? And I've been a member of the USCCA for over 8 years personally, and been an instructor for them for 5 years now, and training counselor for 4. And so I've been heavily involved with this organization and a number of things that the USCCA offers. And one of that is a life-saving education. So the education that they offer through their member portal, the tons of videos and articles, and I mean, a lot of the stuff we talked about today and stuff, you can find checklists for those things and stuff for the home security, home defense through the member portal. And you can find tons of information and stuff to make sure that you're as prepared as you possibly can be to potentially defend yourself if you're ever put in that situation. Industry leading training. There's a national network of instructors. As we talked earlier, when we started out, we talked about Tim and Theron and Kyle and myself all being part of their instructor cadre for the USCCA. There's thousands of instructors across the country, but there's tons of online instruction that is available as well through the member dashboard that you can get access to as a member. Very, very valuable stuff. But then, last but not by all means not least, and the most important thing I think that they offer is that trusted legal protection. So they cover you or protect you for any act of self-defense with any legal weapon anywhere in the entire United States, period. It doesn't have to be a firearm. It's not necessarily a gun thing. It's about protecting you for protecting what you love. So any act of self-defense, any legal weapon, anywhere in the U.S. Membership starts as low as $22 a month, and that gets you $600,000 in legal protection. That's both criminal and civil. So they cover everything to deal with the criminal aspects of legal defense. So court costs, attorney fees, private investigators, expert witnesses, whatever is absolutely needed to provide you with the best possible defense, we're going to provide you with that. We've got over 1,000 attorneys across the country that are part of our critical response network. But it doesn't even have to be one of our attorneys. It doesn't have to be on our list. You can, if you've got an attorney that you know of that you want to use for your defense, it's your life, it's your livelihood. We want to make sure that you get the defense that you deserve, and we'll pay any attorney that you choose. But obviously, if you don't have a personal relationship with an attorney, hey, we've got a list of over 1,000 across the country. No matter where you're at, we've got somebody we can refer you to right then and there. Have an attorney potentially on the scene before the law enforcement ever even leaves, or whatever the case be. The platinum level is our most popular level. That's $30 a month, and that gets you $1,150,000 worth of legal protection. And the elite, which is our premium plan, is $47 a month. That gets you nearly double the platinum at $2,250,000 worth of legal protection. So some of the benefits that you get when you join, those that are platinum and elite members that join at that level, either of those two, you get a fully loaded USB training bullet. It's got over 50 hours worth of training and educational videos on it, ready for you to be able to continue your education right out the gate. So that's an awesome bullet USB flash drive. And you also get a hat and patch, as well as an ammo can and a welcome kit with a membership ID card. The member ID card, like I've got here, has some very simple instructions on the back that tell you what to do if you're ever caught in a defensive incident. And more importantly, in red there is the phone number. You call that number 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and you're connected with our critical response team, which is highly trained to deal with that situation right then and there. 24 hours a day. So you call 911, you hang up the phone with 911, you call us right then and there. Get us on the phone, get us on the line. We could even have you connected on the phone with an attorney before the police even arrive, potentially walking you through what to do and what to say and how to deal with that situation right then and there. So that is just a huge benefit. And as Kelly said in the chat here, she's on here. I know Kelly's a member. I believe Richard Franklin's also a member. Kelly said here the supplemental training is worth the cost of admission on its own. So the gold bonus and stuff, you get a digital download exclusive training content, and then you get the welcome kit membership card as well. So if you're interested in joining and getting a membership with the USCCA, you can join online real easy by just going to uscca.com/remote for this remote broadcast that we're doing for you guys today. And you just it'll ask for a code. You use code Timothy, because Tim, our instructor there and stuff, he's the main one partnering with us today for this broadcast and stuff. So you use code Timothy to get into that access and join there. Or if you've got specific questions or something that you want further details about with the USCCA membership and stuff, you can do a couple of things. You can either call or text me at the number there, 231-301-5000, or shoot me an email at rob.p@uscca.com, or you can throw a comment up in the chat or even hang out after we're done here and stuff, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you've got. So as far as the training goes and whatnot, anybody have any questions about the training that we did today or anything we covered at all that you want to go in more depth on or have questions about? Any of the other instructors that want to jump in and add anything to what we've talked about? Nada? All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. I really appreciate you coming in today and spending some time with us.
Hey, Rob, with your USCC membership, don't forget your spouse. Yeah,
absolutely. As Richard brought up there and stuff, the spouse side of things, under any membership level, the spouse is automatically protected for anything that happens within the home. So if an individual joins as the primary membership, their spouse is automatically protected. Spouse and dependent children are automatically protected under the USCCA membership for anything that happens inside the home. If you want to add your spouse to get the same exact protection outside the home, no matter where they go, on the gold level, it's an extra $7 a month. On the platinum level, it's $9. And on the elite level, it's $14 a month. And then the spouse gets all of the exact same benefits that the primary member gets, no matter where they go in the entire U.S. So that's on the different levels there. You can add the spouse for a small fee extra, about a third the cost roughly. You can add the spouse and they get the exact same protection, but they are automatically protected if something were to happen inside the home. So anything else?
Keep in mind when if you're going to pick your own lawyer, pick somebody that's experienced in self-defense. The nice thing about the USCCA lawyers, the ones that they've pre-vetted, this is their specialty. This is what they do. You don't want to pick your guy that draws up your wills or handles your real estate transactions for a criminal defense.
Yeah, attorneys, I always say attorneys are like doctors. I'm not going to go to a foot doctor if I've got something sticking in my eye. You know, I want somebody that specializes in eyes and stuff in order to be able to deal with that situation. So same thing with attorneys. You want somebody that specializes and does specifically that. So that's the part of the USCCA. An attorney does not get on our critical response list unless they have we go through their bar record, we go through their experience, we go through all of their training, how many, what they type of law they practice and stuff. They got to meet certain thresholds in order to make it on our list. So we make sure that they are some of the best criminal defense attorneys in the area that they're working in order for them to even get on our list. So it's not just some Joe Schmo attorney. It's somebody we've pre-vetted and we know that they're going to do a good job. So.
Yeah, I'd like to add, it's not just, Rob just talking about this. I'm personally a member. I got my little card right here, pulled it out of my wallet.
Ooh, you got one of the new ones.
I believe in it, enough to buy it for my children too. I just want everybody covered, and it's a great organization. I just wanted to throw that in. We're all members also, besides being instructors.
If you are already currently a member and you know somebody that wants to become a member or wants information on that, make sure you contact me, pass my contact information along to them, and have them tell me that you sent them. And I will be happy to hook you up with some pretty awesome referral bonus gifts and stuff too. So if you already are a member or something like that, and you know somebody that wants to become a member, make sure you pass that along and let me know that you referred them, and I'll hook you up with some pretty cool stuff. All right. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you joining. If you do have questions, feel free to hang out for a little bit, or again, give me a call or shoot me an email on that contact information that's on the screen right now. So you guys have a great evening. Be safe.